Okay.
Yes.
All right, everybody, we got 7 p.m., so we're going to go ahead and get started. Good to see everyone out tonight on this nice, cool evening we have here in Pendleton. First, I'd like to everyone to just join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just a couple little updates. Like everyone, please consider joining us at Ask the Mayor on December the 17th. It'd be myself and Councilman Vince Gallen. Should be a good time. We'd love to hear your questions, any concerns you got or suggestions. That'll be from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. and this time it'll be held at Rains on Exchange is where it'll be. The Chris Kendall Market will continue on Friday and Saturday evenings from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. through December the 14th. The Christmas parade is this Sunday, December the 8th at 3 p.m. And also would just like to give a shout out of congratulations to the Pendleton Candy Company for being recognized as Southern Living magazine's November issue for representing Southern Living's best candy shops in every Southern state list. So this company, they're doing really well up there. I think they've got every award you can get for something like that lately. With that, we'll move on into approval of minutes. Hopefully council's had a chance to look at the minutes, and having said that, are there any changes that need to be made? Or is there a motion to approve as presented?
Motion approved as
We'll
presented.
take that.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. Next, we'll have public comments. There's a 3-minute time limit on public comments. You must be a resident, a business owner, or a town property owner to speak in public comments. If you would, just raise your hand. We'll call you up if you want to speak. And if you would, even though we know who you are, Elizabeth, we need you to state your name and address just for the record.
Would you like for me to stand up here?
Yes, ma'am. If you would, just come on up and you can address council right there.
You have no idea how much I hate this. Elizabeth Bowman Herring, address,
Yeah.
119 Duke Street,
Yes, ma'am.
Pendleton. And I.
Excuse me.
Yes,
What was the last name?
Bowman Herring, BOLEMAN-HERRING. Elizabeth with a Z.
Thank you. I got it.
Okay. We have a newspaper. If you go to www.thependletonian.com, it's all we have right now. It's virtual. But about 10 of you have been kind enough to write as columnists. I asked about 20 people. The deadline was August 15th. I got 10. So I would not be a very good elementary school teacher. But I'm hoping that going forward, it expands. You need to take a look at it and get in touch with me and tell me what you think it ought to be, how you think it ought to expand, and how you can help, how you can support it. I'm looking for a WordPress designer because I edit a magazine and my magazine designer did this as a favor to me, but I need to find somebody permanent. It's not difficult software, but it's beyond me. So have a look at the paper and have a think. And if you'd like to be a columnist, reach out to me, or if you have suggestions, please. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Would anyone else like to make a comment? Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Linda McEwen, 132 South Mechanic Street. And I just want to say how much I appreciate those blue lights that are on the walkways. And I would love to see one there on Mechanic and Main Street, because we don't have anything and people don't always stop. And I think it really does get your attention.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can do anything to explore that, that would be wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna go ahead and close public comments. We'll move on to some reports. We're gonna have a police department report, but before we get started on that, we have 3 officers that have done an exemplary job recently in an investigation, and they're going to receive some awards. And I won't steal all Chief's thunder, but Chief, you want to go on with that?
Oh, absolutely, Brandon.
Before you start the report, we'd like to recognize these officers that have done outstanding work.
Lindsay, will you tell us who you Mr. Mayor and Council, if you'd also allow me to bring up Mr. Terry Crooks. He is from the Anderson Crime Stoppers. A little bit about Anderson Crime Stoppers, so Terry doesn't have to get up here and get his feel. So the Anderson Crime Stoppers do provide Crime Stopper support as well as tip support for all the law enforcement agencies in Anderson County. So a lot of cases are solved for every agency in Anderson County going through Crime Stoppers, and Crime Stoppers is the ones that provide the rewards. They run the P2P tip service that people can anonymously do tips. And for this case, for this homicide case, there were several tips that did come through Anderson County Crime Stoppers. Every month, Anderson County Crime Stoppers does issue out deserving officers and deputies around the county awards for their service, where they go, and especially those that go above and beyond. So I'd like to thank Terry and his team for, all the support that they give us, and thank them for these awards. So today, thanks, Terry. So Mr. Mayor and Council, so we have Officer Steve Westcott, Officer Gabe Biddlecombe, and Officer Kaylor Bishop, who's on his second one of these. Then they're getting the Crime Stoppers Award for, and I'll just read it, for demonstrating exceptional teamwork, judgment, and intelligence that brought a dangerous criminal to justice and provided closure to the family of Jessica Barnes. Yeah. So for those that are not familiar with the case, town had a homicide. Well, ended up a missing person that became a homicide. Officer Westcott was the lead investigator on the case. He is continuing to work diligently. He probably has about 300 manpower hours just working this case alone, working with SLED, working now with the solicitor's office to prosecute the 3 that were arrested. So I really appreciate Steve and all the dedication and hard work. I know he absolutely hates this, so that's why I made sure that we did this at council meeting. So, Steve.
And I think we'll try to do a great picture after too, if that's okay with everybody. That way, it'll be a good photo op.
Yep. And next, Gabe. So she's our newest officer, and a graduate of Clemson. So it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. But being new, she was thrust into this, and only having 6 months out of the academy. I mean, that quickly. And she was instrumental. As a matter of fact, I have had several reports from SLED agents talking about how some of her ideas and thinking outside the box really helped them along with their casework. So she was instrumental in that. She was also instrumental in getting Clemson University PD involved because we were on some of their property. So again, same award goes to Officer Gabe Biddlecombe. And last but not least, Mr. Second Award here, Kaylor Bishop, who was instrumental in helping out the team and, being all the investigative stuff, pulling together files, pulling together a little logistic support to help everybody be on the ground during 2 days worth of searching and stuff. So again, Officer Bishop for his dedication and help. And I guess you want.
Yeah, do a great shot, please.
In the center. Yeah, y'all do. I don't have one. Nobody gives me one of these.
All right, over here, right here. Sorry, I'm used to kids. We're good.
All right, y'all go back to work now.
Great job.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Absolutely. All right. Now they can go back to work because they have stuff to do. All right, to get on with the business. So November was a lot thinner and a lot easier than October. We were so busy. November, we had about 420 calls for service. We did take 15 reports. We did clear 4 of those via prosecution, arrest, or warrant. 34 tickets were written, 34 warnings were written, as well as 32 state citations. Shop of the cop. So thanks to some serious generosity, and I would be, beside myself if I didn't thank a couple of people for coming through really in the clutch. And before I do that, we now have earned enough money to support the largest shop at the Cops so far, and that's 34 children that we can now support. Last year we were at 21. This year we're at 34 that we can actually support, and we'll have a really, really decent Christmas with a decent monetary. So Rich Bennett, came through. Great Southern Homes came through, and oh my goodness, why am I having these mental breakdowns? Swamp Fox, thank you. Jeez, Swamp Fox, who had their best November ever, and they have come through in the clutch. And with those 3 donations, it added 16 kids. Just between those 3 donations, we were able to support 16 kids alone with those 3. So I really appreciate what they're doing. That comes up this Saturday at 9 a.m. We're probably going to have to get a bigger bus or 2 buses or, something now because we have so many children. So we do look forward to that. The officers, again, look forward to it because they get to not only come, but they get to bring their spouses and significant others and help us out with that. Other than that, that's kind of what I have. If I'll take questions and move it right along.
I just want to comment that we are giving these children an opportunity to both experience giving and receiving, and they will be preparing meals, nice meals for the Meals on Wheels program. And we're accepting some donations here of those items so those kids can prepare those for the on Saturday morning.
So bring stuff. Just come by and bring stuff.
There's a box here, there's a box at Mama Ray's, and there's a box at 2 Whatnots where you can drop off things. Friday.
Thanks, Ed.
Well, thank you, Chief.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
And go Gamecocks.
I'll take that under 5.
I think it takes 2 signatures on this paycheck, just saying.
I think so. I think it's correct.
We both of them are one night.
I think so. Okay, moving along. We'll go next to the planning department report. And we have Mr. Dave Polson, our planner, to give us that report.
And do you have football bias?
I'm gonna wipe this off after he said that, so it doesn't,
I appreciate that.
we can't, anyways. Mr. Mayor, good evening, council. Glad to be here this evening. So in the month of November, the Planning and Zoning Department issued 9 permits. The following is a breakdown of those permits. We did 2 new homes. That was one on Thompson Street, and then they're starting to build in the Sunrise development. We did 2 new signs, one for the new Express oil change, and then a Dunkin' Donuts sign on the side of their building. We did do 1 new pool, 1 new roof, 1 exterior renovation, and 2 miscellaneous to the demo permits, some HVAC mechanical permits. During the month of November, we spent a lot of time in the planning department putting together this final plan for the Village Hills small area master plan TIF district. We presented a plan for the Planning Commission during a work session. On November the 11th, we held that work session with the Planning Commission and presented this plan to them. They were going to be receiving it later that week at their regular meeting, so we wanted to get the information to them, which is the same information I'm going to give to you guys in a little while. Had some really good comments from the Planning Commission, had some really good questions whenever the entire plan that we went through that we're going to be presenting. And then on November the 14th, they had their regular Planning Commission meeting where they considered the small area plan, master plan for the TIF district. They considered it and they unanimously recommended town council to approve the plan, which is why you have it as an action item tonight. So we spent a lot of time during the month, the first part of November, putting all that together. The other thing that we did a lot of this month, on November the 18th, we assisted MRB with our regular UDO meeting. The UDO is in its final stages of where we've gotten the committee together and we've kind of went through everything we needed to go through. We had a little follow-up meeting last month where we tried to see if there's anything we forgot or we missed. MRB is in the process of putting a draft together of a draft UDO, which we will get back hopefully before Christmas. We'll be able to get back together with the committee. They'll go over it. They'll review the board. They'll review the draft. We'll go through the committee. And then once we get that finalized, we'll do some public hearings on it, some public meetings, and then get it to you guys for a review. So hopefully we'll be able to start wrapping that project up sometime next year. On November 29th, staff attended the Christmas tree lighting on the square, which Public Works did a great job putting that together. All the lights came on when they hit the button, and it was a good night. So we had a good time. We enjoyed being there. It was cold, but we had a good time. So I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have, and that's all I have tonight.
Where is Sunrise Development?
It's off 187. It's the last development in town.
Okay, okay.
On the right-hand side past the school.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate it. And next we'll have the administrative report from Steve Miller, here, our administrator.
Couple standard items. Our bill date was 10/23 for the month. As you'll notice, typically going into the winter, our revenues are down a little bit. We billed 8,962,000 gallons of water. That's about $83,000 in revenue, and 8,571,000 gallons of sewer, or $96,000 in revenue for the volumetric charge, and 25,543 in the flat rate sewer. We rented the depot building 4 times and Barrett's Place shelters 4 times. We collected $1,168 in business license, $35,545 in motor vehicles, and $154,356 in property tax. We did get a couple notifications. We got our local government fund notification. If anybody really wants to know how much money the state gives us, we got a whopping $4,556 more dollars this year from the state, for a total of $94,000. So that's what we get from the local government fund. And we got the property tax bills out this month, along with the tax district 44, which is the city, and the tax district 420, which is the TIF. We processed $784 in-house transactions for $4,349,913. If you're wondering why that is so high, that is payments coming to us from the other entities paying for the wastewater treatment plant. We had about 3.1 million, I think, in payments for the plant already. And a lot of that was payments we were getting reimbursed for at that point. We had 166 work orders posted and 191 completed. That dramatic difference, a lot of that is attributed to the radio read system. Our work orders are cut at about 40% since putting that system in. Of course, we left the update in there about the website because I think it's good to remind everybody that we will be launching a new website on January 15th, potentially. It will have a lot of new information, a lot of other stuff you can have and sign up for, and be a lot more interactive. And of course, we're still working with FEMA, and probably the most important thing that people want to know is about brush pickup. Brush pickup, we signed a contract with SCDOT after the hurricane. The reason why we signed the contract, again, is because the state is picking up the tab for everybody in the 16 counties on the brush pickup. The city is not having to deploy any forces. We're not having to pay for anything. We're not having to track anything in relation to brush, which is probably my last experience with brush. You're probably looking at about $300,000 is what it's going to cost just this town to dispose of brush. And so that is something we're not having to deal with. And I know the mayor got to see just some of the things. You know, they were out here earlier and they had 2 people following them, measuring everything they were cutting up and taking pictures. And it's a lot of documentation and paperwork, to the point it's almost ridiculous. Like you don't know how to get anything done.
They're gonna be taking 3D scans.
Yeah, it's really crazy what they do.
They actually take drone shots of roads so that they can show. So we have been in contact with the county. The county, to their credit, it's not handled by them, it's handled by SCDOT, and we have a contact at SCDOT, but it's 16 counties worth that they're managing.
Mhm.
So they cannot tell us when they'll be here. We have had crews in here. We have had crews working. It's not as consistent, I think, as anybody at the county level or our levels wish it was at this point. But we do know it works because it's done a lot on the eastern part of the state down by the coast. That being said, there are a couple key things I got reminded of. The stumps, we cannot take stumps. The stumps will be pushed back in the hole if they can or left where they're at because they have dirt on there. And EPA rule will not allow us to transport dirt without it being tested because it's considered a cradle to grave type of debris, meaning we are responsible from the time we pick it up to the time it's disposed of. And they tell us exactly how the brush gets disposed of, what size chips it has to be put in, and everything else. And leaf pickup. So we will be doing leaf pickup. I went around today and kind of looked. There's leaves that are mixed in with the hurricane debris. Just leave it in there, but be mindful we're not going to pick that up until they come through and pick the hurricane debris up. If you have leaves, you need to put it to the side. Please do not mix the leaves or equipment. It actually just tears apart our equipment when there's other debris in the leaves. Put it to the side, no sticks, no rocks, no cinder blocks. Yes, we have had somebody put a cinder block in there and it will suck a cinder block up if you're curious. That's how we know. So
It's not good.
it's not good.
What about, like, I don't have hurricane debris in front of my house, but I do have bushes that I cut. So
All debris is hurricane debris right now.
so it has to stay there until,
So we are not running a limb truck right now.
okay, that's what I need to know.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we have 6 months to pick up debris from the storm.
So I can put it over there on my neighbors?
You can put it on your neighbors, just,
That's between
whatever, that's between you and the neighbor.
Well, I mean, there is like, his covers from his property line to the right of way, so I can put it on the right of way,
You put it on the right of way, and when that crew comes through, they're gonna pick
all of it up.
all of it up, because we cannot differentiate between what is debris from the
Don't say
hurricane and what is debris that people have done seasonal trimmings. And so the
Right.
rule of thumb is you got 6 months, you can claim debris pickup.
Okay, that's fine.
But we did want to get that out there. We're gonna be putting more information out about leaves, because there is a lot. There are some leaf piles out there, and they have started, I think, last week or the week before, started making some trips in the leaf truck. But we will start making that more frequently.
Well, thanks to the hurricane, I don't have leaves anymore.
Thanks to her. Couple updates on the capital project, Central Road Pump Station. The property owner is cooperating with us. We have had it at a closing attorney, and they had completed all the paperwork, but we found out there's a mortgage on the property. We are now trying to get the mortgage company to release the portion of the property we need for the pump station from their mortgage, so we can go out to bid. We've notified SRF of this. They're okay with the progress we're making, so, as soon as we can get that release. And if we were buying the property, it'd probably be faster, but they're giving us the property. So there's nothing to offset them releasing that property to us unless the mortgage company allows it. Wastewater treatment plant, you can see some of the updates. We're actively in construction. We're going to be pouring more concrete come January. We do have some vertical items coming out of the ground, especially at the influence section of it. But you can kind of see some of the progress there. Main Exchange, again, we've reached back out to them. We're waiting on them to provide us a draft for the encroachment that they're requesting and what they're willing to do to correct the sidewalks. Winston Street, North Mechanic Street, we have our bid package at ACOG. ACOG sent us back some comments. We should have those addressed by the end of the week, hopefully, and back to ACOG for approval. ACOG, for everybody listening, is the Appalachian Council of Governments. They're the ones that control the community development block grant money that we're using to do this project. And we have our permits in SCDOT, and we've not really had any comments back from them on encroachment. Vaquero's parking lot that y'all approved, we have met the contractor out there. We're meeting the property owners out there so we can show them exactly what we're tying in. And we do have some concerns about closing off and how Hunter's Warehouse, the people that work there, are going to get in and out. But I think we have a solution to that with the contractor. We've instructed GMC to finalize the final utility plans on the Exchange Street utilities. A couple things on Town Hall and Veterans Park, install and purchase revenue bond. We owe Mosley back some comments on what they gave us for town hall. Once we do that, and they will send that out to some contractors to get quotes. Once we get those quotes back, we'll be able to package up something to start spending that revenue bond money on Veterans Park and town halls and projects. Of course, the upgrades to Veterans Park, mentioned above, we've got about 91,000 for Veterans Park this year, plus we have storm damage. I can tell you they have put out to bid a bunch of the storm damage and the other things. They've had not pre-construction. We've had pre-bid meetings this week. Those bids will be back the 16th. And once they get the bids back, we'll be able to see what we can expense out or what we can charge the FEMA at that point. Public Works does have the frost-proof filled water fountains in. They just got installed, and the PRA is actually in the process. I believe it's on their agenda this week to finalize the scoreboards. Green Crescent Trail, we've reached back out to Chad and asked him to set a meeting up with property owners so we can talk to them about what we need to have in order to start working on the property and what they can expect. Clemson's IGA, that has finally passed their attorney's office. It's been sent back to our attorney. He's okay. Although we did reach back out to them and ask them to provide us a map instead of a description of what they're considering the premises that we're serving, just so we know exactly what they want to include in that agreement. They're supposed to be working on that. MedShore's IGA, y'all have on the agenda tonight at 6 o'clock. We got comments back from their attorney. Just prepare y'all for that item. What we will probably do is ask y'all to approve that item to allow our attorney to review their comments, and if it's not material, proceed with signing the lease agreement. I've looked at them. I can't tell you if they're material or not. From what I've seen, they changed some wording that deals with insurance, and that's really an attorney's question, not for us. Westinghouse Road Extension, we received the construction permits today from DES, which is a small miracle in itself. And we got the addressing worked out finally, and they got their address issued for the properties today. We finally got J&M Construction. They had recorded the slope of the sewer line wrong at 0.4% instead of 1.4%. And which was causing us some heartache. And we've gone back and re-verified it with our engineers and inspector on site. It's 1.4% fall. So we've agreed to take ownership of the line back from them. The TIF district, I have a lot of things about the TIF district tonight. A lot of this is from last month, just a reminder of what's going on. So I'm not going to go through all that. Our landscape supervisor did start, Elijah Webb. He started the week of Thanksgiving, and immediately was given 2 holidays, and he just didn't know what to do. But he seems to be working out really well so far. We got him from, I believe it was the Cliffs golf course. So if nothing else, we can put us a putting green somewhere. And I guess in a note of recognition, I did want to say one thing. This was passed on to me by one of the council members. It should be noted that our mayor was actually recognized as the Paul Harris Fellowship Pin, which is given out in the Rotary International to individuals who made significant contributions to the Rotary's organization or cause, particularly in terms of service and financial support. It's named after Paul Harris, the founder of the Rotary. When the Rotarian presents someone with this recognition, it typically signifies that the recipient has made a substantial impact to the Rotary's mission to promote peace, fight disease, provide clean water, support education, and more. And that was given to our mayor, Frank Crenshaw, 2 weeks ago. And it is the highest award that the Rotary will give to somebody. And I think, I appreciate Councilwoman Murphy for letting us know that. I believe she was actually at the place they awarded that. And that was a very, very prestigious award given to him.
Thank you. Yeah, it took me by surprise. Didn't know it was coming. All right, well, next, speaking of our Councilwoman Lynn Merchant, we have our strategic plan report. So an update, so if you would, Lynn.
All right, well, team one is working on the branding survey. I think the survey responses are in, and we'll get a report at the council meeting. Team two has completed a new evaluation for employees, and we'll have the training for the, not for the staff, for the department heads on hopefully mid-December. So they can train that, and we'll start that in January. That's kind of a new process for us. So I think it's going to be a great deal. And team three, we are still working on getting the signs put up, a little slower than we would like. We are also working on and have a draft for the financial information so that the public can look at how the money is being spent. It's ideally a short form, a couple of pages, so that everybody can see, have a clearer picture of our budget. So we're working on that and hope to have that out in January as well. One other thing, the quarterly review has been rescheduled from Thursday to January the 29th. I think all the council members and members have been notified, but just to make sure.
Very good. Thank you, Lynn. All right, next we have a discussion item. It's consideration of continued discussion of election filing methods. Just explain this so everybody out there knows what we're talking about. At the direction of town council, staff conducted research on election filing methods used by municipalities across the state, specifically comparing the petition method, which is what we use, and the statement of candidacy method, which is what a lot of others use. To gather data, the staff requested feedback through the Municipal Association of South Carolina listserv. Of the municipalities that responded, all currently utilize the statement of candidacy method for election filing. None reported using the petition method as their primary means of candidate qualification. Additionally, staff has prepared and attached a draft election calendar outlining the filing deadlines required under state law for the petition method. These dates are non-negotiable and mandated by state regulations. Staff is seeking direction from town council on which filing method to implement for future municipal elections. Once a majority of consensus is reached, staff will proceed accordingly to ensure compliance with all relevant legal requirements and deadlines. So having said that, just open this up for discussion. I guess to start with, I guess I'll go ahead and state my case, say my little piece about it. It is kind of a pain in the neck to go out and get those signatures, and I've done it a bunch of times. I do like it though, in that it puts me in touch with people, and I think it kind of gets everybody's name out there as far as who's running. But it takes time, and you've got to go talk to people. You've got to get their signature and get their address. And it's good to get their voter registration number. And here it's 5% of the registered voters, which I don't know what that exact number is right now. It's 200 and something, maybe.
A little less than that, but not much.
So that's what it takes, but it is time consuming. And I know there's a finite amount of time you have to do it, which I think we had mentioned last time. It could be extended a little bit.
Yeah, and after looking at the law and doing it out on the calendar, if you look at the next page or two of your agenda item, you'll see that it does not allow the room we thought
it does. Okay, so that's one thing. But just me personally, I like it. I know we're different. Pendleton's different than the rest of the state in a lot of good ways. And I would, for my part, I would like to keep it, but that's just my 2 cents. Other than that, we'd love to hear anybody else's thoughts on it.
So Amber, you're saying that it would have to stay at 2 weeks?
But even though it stays at 2 weeks, me personally, I feel that we need to do this because Pendleton is kind of, there's certain areas that nobody goes to unless they have to. And if we as council members are to govern the whole town, we need to make sure we're going to the whole town. And there are areas I had been by, but I'd never been to. And you find out things that need to be done by doing this. I found out that the Senior Citizen Center behind the post office, there's a lot of people out there. They are very active politically, but mobility is an issue for them. They can't come to the town hall meetings, but they're interested. There are people in a lot of the subdivisions that have very strong opinions, believe it or not, about, what's going on development wise. Then there are the areas where nobody goes to because, hey, nobody looks like me. And that's the thing we need. We need to see people who don't look like us in areas of this town. And that's not only by race, but it's also by socioeconomics, because that's what it takes. If somebody is running for Ward 4, and the only people who knows that person are the people who live around them, that's not helping Pendleton as a community. And yes, I know people are going to say, well, it's 2 weeks, and what do? I had to get votes, and because of illness, I did it in 4 days. And it can be done. It took a lot of walking and very little gas, but it can be done. And if you're serious enough about doing this, at some point in time, people have to realize personal leave time just can't be about taking a vacation. It can be about other things. When I worked, I took personal leave times for anything that had to do with the community that they wouldn't give me time off for. And I think people need to be resourceful and not just say, oh, I get off at 5 and it gets dark at 8 and I can't. Well, so what if it gets dark at 8 o'clock? From 5 to 8, you got 3 hours, hoof it for 3 hours. Get you some power bars and some water and go. So I feel that as far as Pendleton is concerned, at this particular point in time, that we need to have people going out and getting the signatures. I'm all for the petition. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Anyone else?
Is anybody else using the petition? Did anybody that responded? Does MASC know of anybody else using the petition?
No, not actually.
But that shouldn't have no bearing on us. Other municipalities aren't doing all the different things that we're doing, so.
You got some of them that are.
And Jeff, looking at the timeline again, I want to double check with our contact with the county election commission, because if you look at our timeline, state law just tells you when the first public notice has to be published. That's your deadline for that first public notice. There's nothing that says it can't be published before that.
Okay, and what about, does it have to be 5%?
It does have to be 5%, yes. And that is dictated by state law. It's the 5% of your registered voters. Yes.
Yeah, and I can see if you're in the city of Columbia where there's 136,000 registered voters, what that 5% would be. Those 5% there is 6,831 signatures.
That's a lot.
So that's pretty serious. But there's a lot of these places do it that are real small in population, and we're pretty small in population.
And we're still actually reaching out actively to some of these municipalities, because that's all that has reached out to us from our listserv request. And we're hoping they're going to reply to us, but we're just waiting.
So at what point do we have to make a decision on this?
Truthfully, sooner rather than later. You can wait as long as June, July, if you really wanted to, based on time frames. But we have made a habit of best practice of notifying people of our deadlines sooner rather than later. Technically, your first advertisement about your election is August 7th. So before it ends.
Okay, just curious.
I'd be curious to hear if we could find anybody that had the petition and gone to the other, and if they could tell us some of the advantages or disadvantages and what motivated them to make the change.
I'm sure
We
we could
could
look
see
into
if we
that.
could find that, yeah.
I mean, I ran last year, went to 1,256 of the 1,870 occupied dwellings in the town. And I felt what I learned during that time was incredible, of what people's interests are and what their concerns are. But I also understand that someone that's differently able, someone that has a young family, working families, that's tough. It's very tough. So I'm leaning more towards the petition thing still. It'd be nice if you could stretch it out a little bit, because I didn't have a job, and I still was, I remember walking up Shannon Drive trying to get those last signatures, and it was about 100 and some degrees, and it just wasn't any fun. So,
Yeah.
but going out and meeting people, and especially across 76, people that have a totally different way of looking at Pendleton. And so that was I went to at that point, every house that was there.
But I understand people having, young families and this, that, and the other, but you know what? They sure can find time to do everything else they want to do. I think if you're committed to serving the
I
town.
don't think we should speak for people.
I'm not speaking from people. I'm just saying that we can't, there's always going to be something that comes up. All I'm saying is, if you're, just where there are young people that have things to do, I have things to do that don't even get involved. I've got an elderly parent to take care of, but you know what? I have to schedule around and do what I have to do. That's all I'm saying. No matter what your station, no matter what you have as far as family, you've got to, if you're going to do this, you do it. You make the commitment and you do what needs to be done. Nobody has a problem getting to Clemson football games when traffic is all backed up. So, don't hand me this stuff about, oh, I've got children. Oh, I got a job. So that's all I'm saying. I feel that it's important to keep the petition at this particular point in time. I really don't care what other towns do, because other towns aren't doing it. That's my opinion. Give you 2 cents for it.
Okay. Well, is there anything else anybody like for us to look into in the meantime until we make a decision?
So you can check and see if they can stretch it out a little bit, but the 5% is definitely set
Yes,
by.
and I can show you the 5% directly out of state law, yes.
So probably to get an accurate answer, we need to this is not either one of our attorneys' area, but maybe we need to send it to them and tell them to reach out, because elections are governed a lot by by federal law too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just ours. And I do not claim to be an election expert, but there are attorneys out there that make a living at these things. And if we really want to get an idea to make sure we know when to publish and everything else, we probably need at that point to bring one of them in and say, what is the actual letter of the law?
Sure.
At that point.
All right, well, sounds good. Well, I guess we'll direct staff to look into this further.
I would just like to throw out one other idea, which is, I agree with the merits of getting out there, boots on the pavement, meeting people. I think it is invaluable. We should be doing that once a year, theoretically, or more. But in the lead up to the 2 weeks, in my experience of going through it, I had come to council meetings as a private citizen for 2 years in a row. I think I only missed like 2 or 3 meetings thinking about running. And it was fairly difficult to understand when and how to file. And if we could have a candidacy interest meeting, or the town again, I know we need to work within our rights, but it would be nice to market it or get these notices out in such a way, because we are potentially doing it in such a different way from seemingly everyone else that we sort of bear the burden of explaining this way and making sure if there are those people who are on the fence that we're giving them enough information soon enough that they can really get it in their head, hey, this is what I've got to accomplish.
But couldn't we just have that along with information of the various boards and commissions as well? So just have like a overall information that covers all governance, so to say?
I'm a fan of more information. I'm just saying, like, if there's a video about it, or if there's some other way that we can get the word out.
In the newspaper.
That isn't.
Newspapers
that,
would be good. Yeah.
I know, we got this newspaper. It's gonna solve all our problems. No, but as Elizabeth knows, the communication is at the crux of all this stuff. So if we're gonna keep this sort of relic, if you will, of our uniqueness, which uniqueness is one of our cornerstones.
It is one of the cornerstones, and we are a relic.
That's right. Polish this with all the other antiques. So
Yeah, I agree.
that's my 2 cents.
Okay. So we'll look into it further, is what I'm hearing.
Mhm.
Get a little more information. Come back to it. All right, very good. Next, we'll move on to some action items. First of which will be consideration of a resolution adopting the Planning Commission's recommendation to set permanent zoning of area-wide business AB for recently annexed property at 915 Pioneer Road. Description on this is Pendleton Town Council annexed this property by a second and final reading of ordinance 24-15 on November 5th, 2024, and set temporary zoning to area-wide business. At the Pendleton Planning Commission's November 14th, 2024 regular meeting, the commission acted on an application from the property owner and unanimously recommended that Pendleton Town Council set permanent zoning of AB on this property. And we recommend accepting the recommendation. So is there any discussion on that, or do I hear a motion?
Motion to accept.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimous. Next, we have consideration of a resolution by Pendleton Town Council accepting the Pendleton Planning Commission's recommendation for something else, to approve the Village Hill Small Area Master Plan for the town of Pendleton, South Carolina. Before we get into this, I believe Dave is going to give us kind of an overview of all this. So Dave, if you would like to proceed with that, it'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll try and go through this with you guys, kind of introduce it to you. This is the same slideshow plan that I showed the Planning Commission. I would like to point out tonight that Mr. John Perkins, who is the chairman of the Planning Commission, and Mr. Chuck McEwen are here tonight in attendance. I appreciate all the work that these gentlemen and the board has done. I've asked a lot of them, and we've all put a lot of time in this, because this is a very important plan, and we want to make sure that what we develop here is what is best for Pendleton. So just a real quick thing, this whole plan has been developed out of a few important aspects, and those 2 important aspects that we really considered was citizen input and our comprehensive plan for the town. So those are the 2 documents that we really used and utilized and reviewed and went back and made sure it was lining up with to develop this plan. So on page 80 of our current comprehensive plan states that a small area plan provides a collaborative process for citizens to work together to improve their neighborhood and ensure a better future. I think that's a very important statement, and it's something that is important to the town, and it's self-explanatory. We need to work together to make sure that all citizens, have the right to improve their neighborhoods and ensure a better future. Small area plans contain a set of specific strategies that aim to preserve or improve a specific area of town. As we've identified in this particular area, the Village Hills TIF district, obviously that it's an area that has been kind of hit with some blightness and needs some improvement, some reinvestment. And this is a plan that should improve that and get us closer. So a lot of this, some of these slides this is the same plan, the same slideshow that I did for the Planning Commission. So some of these things are really geared towards the Planning Commission, but I wanted to kind of paint the same picture for you guys that I did for them. So what is in this plan? So this is the best way to kind of explain this is that your 50,000 foot view of an area is your comp plan and your future land use map. That's your big view, big picture of what your goals and what your goals and what you would like to see in the town. And then your small area plan is your 25,000 foot view. So you're getting a little bit closer, but you're not all the way to the ground yet. So this plan that we're putting together is that 25,000 foot view. Once we get through this plan, if council approves it, then that allows us to get to on the ground, boots in the dirt, getting things developed and designed to actually put an ordinance together that dictates what the development is. So as I said, you've got kind of a 3-tier thing. This is the middle tier to try and get us to that bottom line to really make some improvements in this area. So what's in this plan? It's a concept plan of what could be developed in this presentation that I'm going to give you and all the pretty pictures that we put together working with the consultants is not what is going to be exactly what goes there. This is what we kind of put in there as what is a very good option for us. This is the things that would fit in there. These are things that we thought would align with their comprehensive plan and the future goals of the town. It gives us a little bit of areas to work with, and there's some things that we can do to try and make it even better. So why are we discussing it now? Like I said earlier, we're at the point where we can get a plan together. We need to start working towards setting up the ordinance, which really guides us into what the houses are going to look like, what size lots are going to be, how many houses are there, where the trail's at. Once we get to that point, that's where we really narrow it down, and then we really get to make the planning commission earn their keep and their paychecks on that. So, and then of course, what is expected of the planning commission? They have the same charge that you had, is they had to look at this, consider it, make sure it's heading in the right direction, and then they gave their blessing on it to recommend you guys to adopt it. So the designated area, it's kind of hard to see, and I apologize, but if you can see the blue line, this is the actual identified area for the TIP. That's one thing that this plan has done, is it has identified and called out where the TIP district is. It includes the elementary school, all the way down to Edgewood Square Apartments, all the way over to Morton Farm, and then the farthest point of Village Hills. So it's a pretty big area. It consists of,
Yeah.
there it is. It's a total of 207 total acres, 160 properties, and plus or minus 25 total acres for trails, parks, and green space. One of the main goals that we really wanted to do in this plan was identify available green space and a trailway system. We really paid a lot of attention to connectivity and walkability, and how do we make this area that it's an extension of the town, not just its own area. It's a place that people can come to, that they don't live there, there's things for them to do, there's walking trails, and it connects to the Morton Farm development, which connects to the main street, which connects to the square, and continue on going. So we really paid a lot of attention to make sure that it connected. The other option, the other thing we paid a lot of attention to is we included a lot of areas. We've had a lot of questions of, well, my property is in this, and we really don't see why we're in it. We have included any piece of property that is in this area that may benefit from the changes in reinvestment that we may do. So there's some property down on Cherry Street that this won't affect them at all until maybe they change it. 100 years from now, if they sell it, it'll have to come into compliance with whatever overlay districts we put into. But they will immediately benefit from the sidewalks that we put in, and the new breezeways and the new connections, and so it's going to benefit that entire area. So we wanted to make sure that we identified as much of the areas that would benefit from it altogether. So that's why it's so big. And the breakdown of there you go. So currently there's 108 lots that are owned by the town of Pendleton. Great Solar Homes owns 47 of those, and then there's 26. This was our last count. All of the lots that are in the pink, those are town-owned lots. Those are pre-platted, already registered lots. They're currently 10,000 square foot R2s that they're zoned for the art. It's a flexible review district, but they're 10,000 square foot, which equals our R2 low density residential. One thing that the district and the current lots will allow us to do is once we get to the ordinance may come in and say, once we determine what the density is for the entire district, that'll tell us, okay, well, we know that we want to keep these 10,000 square foot, or we may want to make them 8,000, or you may want to make them 11,000, whatever that is. That ordinance will allow us to say, okay, from now on, those lots have to at least be 10,000 square foot. So that helps us once we get to the density levels. It guarantees us a minimum lot size once we establish that, and that's all done through the ordinance.
David,
Yes, ma'am.
the 160 properties,
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
private property owners, or is that total ownership?
160, the 160 properties is total. That's total properties
Okay,
in the district.
that's owned by the
Owned by
town
somebody.
and
Owned by
whoever?
somebody, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Owned by everybody.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So that's one of the goals, and that's one of the biggest advantages that we have is one, we already have a developer that's willing to work with us, and we are the major property owner in this area. So it gives us a little bit of an advantage when we come to setting these ordinances and setting the guidelines. We have really had some really good conversations with the other major landowner in this area. They're very willing to work with us. They want to work by our rules, and they want to make sure that they help and do what's best for this area. So again, that's just the breakdown of who owns what property there. The other thing I really want to make sure we point out is that this is all a conceptual plan. Like I said earlier, what we're showing you tonight doesn't actually mean there's going to be 100,000 homes there. This gets us to a point where we can say, okay, we want this many. So this was the slide that I put in for them. You guys are very well abreast to this. This is explaining what a tax increment financing tool is. And it's a tool that municipalities use to help revitalize an area that has become or is in danger of becoming run down or blighted. A TIF district allows municipalities to incur debt for the redevelopment of a project area and use the additional property tax revenue generated by the redevelopment projects to pay off that debt. Basically, whatever we can determine that comes in after we make the investment, we get to use that money to pay for the investment. Now, the important thing in this, which kind of explains why we're at this stage and what this plan is the second point is the municipality must first draft a redevelopment plan outlining the proposed projects. That's where we're at in this, and that's what this plan does. So it's a part of the requirement in the tax increment financing options. And then the redevelopment of the project area will theoretically cause the assessed values of the properties and the projected area to increase, leading to a higher tax revenue for the municipality. The municipalities would use this increase in tax revenue, known as the increment, and to repay the bonds. And you guys have issued the bonds already and working on through all of that.
Yeah, I think something that should be mentioned about that is it's not only the tax revenue that we would get, but it's also what the school district would get and what the county would get.
Yes, sir.
Whoever participates.
So that was one of my other slides. No, you're right. No, you're right.
Sorry, man.
No, you're good. So one of the things that's really making this a good plan is we have gotten the city, the county, and the school district to partner with us. So we will actually be able to capture all of that. So to be able to say that they have partnered with us so that we have that sum that we can reinvest in this is a huge thing. And they're on board with us, and they've blessed it and already passed, giving us their village to go to this.
And that's a good thing, because if you've been keeping up, Pickens School District pulled out of Clemson, and their TIF project, even though it's for, affordable housing, is now in jeopardy.
Yeah, it really shows the validity of this plan and how they feel, that this is going to really benefit not only the citizens of Pendleton, but it's also going to benefit the school district of Anderson County and Anderson County itself. So it's really a plan that's going to come together and really do some good things. So it's really a testament to that. You're right. Some of the current conditions, I know all of you have been in the Village Hills area. The sewer in that area is an 8-inch line with PVC inserts where repairs have been made. It's very obvious to see if you drive back there, the roads kind of go straight across and then dip down and come back over. That's where the lines have really just kind of failed. And once the line fails, the ground just goes with it. So that's where you can kind of go through and see that it's all in, pretty much, it's a hodgepodge of materials that have been just kind of put together over the time to just keep it going.
But before we do anything, we have to get this infrastructure.
Infrastructure is going to be one of the first things.
No, I'm just saying, we've got to get that straightened.
That's right, because we still have a duty to serve the people that live
Right,
there now. So,
right.
yes, that's one of the biggest things we have to do. Other areas that have, sewers, some of them are on septic tanks and utility maps. There's a lot of things in there that could really do some reinvestments. So some potential issues or some upgrades, there's going to be some increased traffic. That was they graded the roads faster with no easy way for the town to get money for paying them. We could use money from the TIF to do that. It increases the water and sewage usage. Once you get the reinvestment in the area, you get the new residents and homes that will demand, that will get a better tax ring to the city, and you're bringing in new sidewalks, new street lighting, new areas of the town that really will bolster this area. I know I'm talking fast and trying to get through this all for you guys tonight. So some more, I know these are just some of the pictures that were there. As you know, this was a mobile home park that has been kind of torn down. A lot of the land that was there, the mobile homes were there. We had a kind of an influx with people that were just kind of boarding up in there and staying in there. So a lot of the mobile homes were torn down. This is just kind of an area that's overgrown. You can see the roads. All of the roads back there are either alligatored out or they're kind of just mellowed from where the sewer lines and everything underneath of that has kind of failed.
So let me ask you this. What if there's somebody who is currently in a mobile home in that area? Are they going to be able to upgrade their mobile home? If they want to put a new mobile home in, can they do that?
So that is something that we'll have to determine in the actual development of the ordinance. So, we have said from day one that our main goal here is if you currently live here, we want you to be able to live there as long as you want to. And that's one of our, goals is we want to be able to make this better for the people that live there currently, not only for the people that may come there. So that's something we'll have to determine in the ordinance if there's something that we want to allow them to bring in a new mobile home. Currently, our ordinance doesn't allow that. But it's something we can look at when we go to developing the ordinance for this TIF district.
Well, considering that the people moving in can probably afford to build a new home, but the people who live there, maybe all they can afford is a mobile home. And I think that's something that we need to look at as a town wide. I think how we look at these things, because affordable housing is no longer affordable housing. We all know that. And we're gonna have to start looking at alternative housing solutions.
Yeah, and that's really one of the beauties of getting past this part and getting to the development. I know I keep saying the development ordinance.
No, I got
that's where the really meat of the dinner is, because that's where we get to say, well, this is important to us, and we want to make sure this is included. And then once it's in that ordinance and you guys approve it, that's what the law is.
So right now you're at a standstill until we say, go forth and.
Well, we're kind of, I don't say we're in a standstill. We're at a stage in the process to where we have to get through this. If you guys, I would say, and Steve can correct me if I'm not correct here, if you guys don't like this plan and don't approve the plan, I don't know what that does to us. It kind of sets us back a little bit. That's a really good question.
I think the legal way to answer that is you use plans. You'll hear when you go into court of law something called spirit and intent. And so when you write a development ordinance, remember, development ordinance is just the minimum bar. That's all government sets, the minimum. This is what you have to cross to build here. And when you write an ordinance, especially ordinances that may deal a lot in design or form-based code or something, when a city gets to the courtroom and gets on the stand, one of the first things that'll be asked is, how did you come up with this ordinance? Well, the spirit and intent of the town. And that's why you do these public outreach. That's why you do these small area plans, because when that gets back to people like David that have to write the ordinance and then eventually enforce the ordinance, they have to have some way that they're interpreting the ordinance, because the interpretation never happens at our level. The interpretation happens way below us. And they're using these things and they're being judged off of it. And that's what builds the ordinance up and eventually builds the whole area up. So this process, and I think Rebecca Vance talked a little bit about it in the meeting with the Planning Commission, is really the way that it's intended to go. Yet in South Carolina, there's a lot of hurdles to intending to go this direction. But you have an opportunity here with this one, because it's a TIF district and you're doing some other things in order to do it.
Yeah, having this plan actually really gives us a very proactive approach to developing this area. It would be very easy to say, hey, let's just throw something in there and see what happens. Well, one, we would never be able to afford the increases in the needs of this area without doing this TIF. And this plan gives us a backing that says, hey, we've got a plan that we're following. This is what it says, and it got us from point A to point B.
So
it's
will
just-
this be a blueprint for other TIF districts?
It could be.
Okay.
It could be.
Well,
Okay.
it's really a blueprint for any
Small area
district,
plan.
small area plan that the town and council and planning commission want to put more emphasis that when you rewrite your next comprehensive plan gets moved into that.
Okay.
And so, when people talk about 2040 plans, or that was actually in 2000, we were talking about that. I guess we talk about 2080 plans or 2060 plans now. It takes 20, 30 years
I know.
for things to show through.
I do think having a concept that we're proactively trying to build a concept is the council trying to respond to the outcry that we are having not the right standard of development, not the right pattern of development. So this is the way we can set a new course.
That's right.
Is it the easiest course in the state of South Carolina? No. It costs money, and it's costing a lot of time for our staff. And it's very tricky when it gets down to, is this going to be legally challenged or not? But this is the way that we try to develop better, and I think that's part of it.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, it's a defendable approach to development and redevelopment. Plus, it's also a required step in the TIF district. So yes, it could be, this is exactly how you do a plan.
Right now, if Great Southern Homes wanted to build new houses on this property, the town would have to scrap together all this money to put brand new sewer pipes in. And where are they going to get the money? I mean, we're going to be pulling from other priorities and projects. So this gives us a way with the increment financing to say, hey, if this
Yeah,
is
but-
actually a positive development, then it'll pay itself back.
But we need to go ahead and move on this, right?
Yeah, and this, another thing, to your point, there's really no money coming in from it right now.
No,
Mhm.
So.
The second slide you stole.
I said I was going
David,
to.
we gotta get through these slides.
Okay.
We already know about a lot of this.
That's why. You're good. I'm just kidding. But you're right. So this is something that's, we've said it a bunch of times. Our consultants that we've hired to help us do this is a proactive approach that's defendable to the redevelopment. So, and I'm just giving you my time, Mr. Mayor. And again, we say this word over and over, it's a concept plan. This is what we looked at when we looked at the plan. We're trying to say, okay, how do we make this area so that it's really a viable place, it's something that people want to live in, something that really draws people in, but it also draws people from other areas of the town into this area to come and take advantage of what we've done. So on Queen Street here, you can kind of see we've got a shared use path. The neighborhood commercial areas there, this is something that we realize could be a potential in this. If you look at our comprehensive plan, it points out the importance of public-private partnerships. It also states that the town is dedicated to providing a livable, sustainable, and healthy community for all its residents by ensuring a balance of diverse mix of residential and compatible commercial development. This is an area that we looked at and said, okay, this is somewhere that might benefit from a commercial aspect. You could find something that would go in here that would draw people here. You may have your corner store there. You may have something that goes there that you could bring people to this area and supply the people that live there to make this an inclusive area. There's some other options you could do with this. Again, it's a concept plan. It's kind of an open market. Whatever you think is best for there. I've heard, talk about maybe having some type of community center or town hall there or something like that with some areas that we could grow into. So it's just a concept plan that says, hey, this is based on the market study that was done in the plan. This is a great place that we could do maybe some type of commercial. Now, this would probably be the last thing that's developed on this, but it's an option that could be in there. And it's something that we thought was important because, again, we're trying to bring that an all-inclusiveness and draw people to this area, but also provide for a very healthy community in this park.
Instead of just having a sign on the side of the
That's
road.
right, exactly.
This concept is a gateway. Okay, this is right up there on Queen Street, and all the rest of this nice neighborhood is behind it.
That's right.
So people can kind of know where it is.
And that was one of y'all's points and goals in the comprehensive plan, was to promote images of vibrant, visual, attractive, safe, and economically diverse residential communities. And we think this does that. You'll also notice the corridor, Calhoun Boulevard. We've got a really neat design for that with some nice streetscaping, making it a full boulevard. I mean, you'll kind of see through some of this. And again, as the concept plan, this is the master plan for the civic campus that we said, okay, we know we want to put a fire station. We need a fire station. Where can we put one at? So this is an area that we kind of, the consultants worked through and said, you know, this is where our civic campus could go. And you'll see it's pointed out to the fire station there. Public Works, if we put those buildings on the corner of Queen Street, we've got to do something with Public Works. So it's got an area here that we've called out for our new Public Works with the covered storage. There is an area there that is called out for, you know, a future police department, a future community center, which we just, you know, thought it would be a need to name it after a prevalent person in town. So we feel, you know, the Jane Etta Hunter Community Center. And this is an area that people could use if they wanted to rent it out or whatever as a community center. Not to take away from the one that we currently have, but to bolster that and offer more things. So, you know, it's just ideas, it's just concepts. Now, one of the tools that we really get to kind of use in this area is, you know, this one particular area, we may even just do a master plan of this area. So we may look at this and say, well, you know, we really think the fire station needs to go there, but how does it affect when there's a group going on over here at this building, unless they have a big birthday party and they've got 500 people there and there's a fire call and the fire engine can't get out. You know, maybe we need to swap the fire station to this side and put that on that. So that's what the master plan of this little area gives us the ability to do. It really gets us to look smart at it and say, well, this has got to be like Lego. It's got to put them all together. So that's another tool that we have in actually designing this. And again, the names that we kind of put on there that we thought would sound good and would really pay homage to the area. But again, all of that will be decided by you guys and pointed out in the ordinance. So as I move down a little bit, this is the first part of the residential area. This is something that we really wanted to kind of show. This could be your first residential place for a young adult or a newly married couple that are just starting out. I know that one of the things we talked about in the beginning of this is we wanted to develop an area where somebody could move in as the beginning first-time home buyer, move through the process. Once they go through life a little bit longer, they can get to a little bit larger home. And then once they get a little bit older through life, they can move to the other section, have a bigger home, and they can do everything they wanted to do in this area.
So you're not looking at anybody adding on to whatever structure they initially buy?
We're not adding on to any structure they initially buy.
Like, okay, I may have a home that I build there now with 10 rooms. And then I have 15 kids and want to add 5 more rooms.
Oh my God.
So.
Well, you better get started, Barbara.
I want to see this. Yeah, you should have been started long time ago.
So all of that will be regulated by, you know, whatever the setbacks we develop, whatever the lot sizes are, the minimum size requirements for the homes, that'll all be worked out. So, I mean, obviously there'll be limits to where you've only got a certain size piece of property. If you've got a 20,000 square foot piece of property, you're not going to be able to put a 25,000.
So you're not looking for this to be generational?
Well, we are, but through steps. They should be able to go from the beginning of the neighborhood to the middle to the end.
I think you're using an example of why there's multifamily in there. Like,
Well,
say,
exactly.
people could have an apartment for a while, but
Yeah.
they can, I mean, but it could be somebody looking to downsize.
Absolutely. That's right. We're looking at this as some type of stack flat that, you know, that offers a really nice amenity. You know, we've got this, the Village Oval. We wanted to kind of pay homage to the square. We also wanted to.
I think the simple answer to your question, Barbara, is there are single family lots deeper in here that you can build a house and add on to. But then there's other products that probably, you know, you start out renting and then move into something else, or vice versa, and going the other way, so that you have that mix, because the mix of housing, I believe, is what makes a neighborhood stay actually together.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right. Yeah, so if you look, we've kind of developed this village oval. We wanted to kind of pay homage to the village square and the new streetscape we just did on Queen Street. We've got this district common green. We really wanted to pay a lot of attention to all the green space that we can put in this and offer areas for people to congregate. This is something that was very important to the Planning Commission. Again, we really just want to develop an area that allows people to move through the progression of life. Another statement, once we get to the residential concept, so you'll see this is the backside of where we were just talking about where the stacked flats are. These would be your attached, single family homes. The town of Pendleton will preserve and protect the neighborhood character and quality of life in residential neighborhoods, encourage a balanced range of housing types, promote opportunities for clean, safe, and affordable housing, and maintain neighborhood characteristic, stability, and safety. So that's kind of what we try to look at when we went from one stage to the next. We spent a lot of time in this area trying to create that know your neighbor feel. If you look and see that most of these townhouses are attached single family, if you look in the middle, they're facing those greens. They're fed by an alleyway on the back, which gives you that ability to look across the green to see your neighbor or go out on the green and whatever it is to so that you know who lives next to you or around you. It gives you an opportunity to really meet people and bring the neighborhood together. The alley-fed area and the on-street parking was something that was important, and then the trail system connecting through this off to the other side of the property was also important. So those are some things that we really paid a lot of attention on as we went through this. The alley-fed, the large courtyards, and the access to the walking trails and the walkability for the district. The concept plan for the trailway and greenway, these are things that were important to you guys and were goals identified for the adoption of the comprehensive plan. And basically the town is committed to providing safe, sustainable, efficient, and equitable trail networks that promote connectivity and walkability through 5 key vision elements. And these are the 5 elements that you all as town council has dictated in our comprehensive plan as important and a goal. And I think we've established that with this trail system. We have a pretty extensive trail system through this. Now, a lot of that is through the flood zone and flood district area that can't be built on, but you're still allowed to put, and there's some very pretty land in there that'll make a great walking trail and a great, access to all kind of recreational things.
I think Town Creek is an amenity
Absolutely.
in and of itself. In terms
Yeah, if you haven't been out there, I mean, there's some really neat property back there, and then you'll see that there's a connection all the way from the inn, all the way up to the elementary school, all the way through up to Morton Farm Development, and then that goes down East Main Street Extension, and then it just keeps going. So, like I said earlier, we really wanted to try and bring the areas of town together and not separate them. So this was something we spent a lot of time on. It was a big goal of the Planning Commission to make sure that we kind of hit on that. The other thing that we really took a lot of concentration on was green space and conservation areas. The town of Pendleton has already made a $282,000 investment by purchasing 3 lots in this area. 165,000 of that 282 was done through the conservation bank. That means that this area here will be in perpetuity ground. That's all it can ever be. Now there's 14.62 acres, and then the total disturbed and developed area is 2.24 acres, or 15%. And what that means is, out of all of that, we're only going to disturb 2.24 acres, which is going to be your trails, or maybe a picnic table here or a bench there. So we've really taken a lot of concentration on conserving this, and you guys have already taken that step in doing this and putting in a conservation easement on this property. So that was important. So that'll be there forever. These are some of just the general powers and what the commission did, what they needed to do. They had to prepare and revise periodically a comprehensive plan. I wanted to just kind of refresh them on what their responsibilities and roles were. They're responsible for zoning ordinances or resolutions and maps and appropriate revisions thereof for its justification. They do regulations for the subdivision of land and appropriate revisions thereof, which plays a lot of this. An official map and appropriate revisions thereof showing the exact locations of existing or proposed public streets and highways, rights of ways of highways and utilities, and public building sites together with regulations to control the erection of buildings and other structures and changes in land use in such streets, highways, rights-of-ways, building sites, or other open spaces. So these are just some of the things that the planning commission is charged with, and I've had to remind them sometimes. So they do a really good job. I also want to just kind of make sure that they have, ordinances and resolutions, kind of what the difference is. An ordinance is an actual local law, and a resolution is really an opinion of council, and you guys know that as well. So, what we bring to you guys first is a resolution. It means you guys are giving us, your opinion that this is the issue that you have and your stance on it. And then once we get through that resolution, we go to an ordinance, and then that's the actual law of the town. So the review process, the Village Hill Small Area Plan. So the plan adoption process, conduct a public meeting to share the plan, engage in the workshop meetings with council to engage elected officials in the details of the plan. Then the design guidelines. That's where we're going to try and get to through the ordinances. And that's the establishment of the comprehensive design guidelines that reflect the historical character of Pendleton while allowing for innovative and contemporary elements in Village Hills. To determine if an appropriate overlay district is needed. And that's one thing we'll find out is, do we need to create an overlay here? Do we do its own special zoning? What do we do to make sure that in the future, this is what the guidelines are and it's spelled out? So that's just the review process. The next step in this, as you guys know, you're considering the plan tonight. If you guys approve the plan, we really get started on working on the ordinances and putting that together. That's going to take a lot of work, but I think we can get through it. We'll be able to use that to develop this in a way that's really going to represent what Pendleton is and what it needs to be. So that's this is the slide I was going to tell you that the mayor stole from me. So currently, that entire 200 whatever it was acres is bringing in $33,000 in taxes a year. That's it. That entire district bringing in $33,000. That's what it brought in last year. And that's not just the town. That's the town, the school, and the county. That's total.
Everything.
That's everything. Just with the sale of the Morton Farm and that being in this development, the taxes that we've already incurred has gone up to $16,748 just on the sale of that land. So that kind of gives you an idea of what this development does, what a TIF will do, and we'll be able to use that increment to establish and reinvest in this area to make this plan come to fruition. So that was the slide that Mr. Mayor stole from me, so that was good. So that's the last that I have. Again, I appreciate the Planning Commission for all they did. They put a lot of work in this, and I know you guys will as well. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to kind of go through this. And I'll be glad to try and answer any questions if you have any.
Well, I really like it. I like the design of it. I like the greenways. I think that's really important. You talk about connectivity through Morton Farm. We got to make sure that is something that does happen. And I like the oval. We got our cricket players on Sunday morning at Veterans Park. Now they can maybe go there and play instead of on the baseball diamond. But it's really nice. And but I echo Barbara's sentiments about the current residents there and ensuring that we handle this in a way that's respectful and towards the current occupants of some of those lots. So.
Okay. Well, moving on here, unless there's anything else, is there a motion to pass this resolution, or is there?
Motion to pass.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, next we have consideration of dissolution of the Leadership Pendleton Board and transition of the program oversight to Community Engagement Manager, which is Lindsay Watley over here. The following recommendation was submitted by the Leadership Pendleton Board of Regents. With unanimous approval from all current board members, the board recommends that the town council dissolve the Leadership Pendleton Board and transition the program's oversight and management to the town's Community Engagement Manager. So with that, I'm just going to open that up for any discussion or questions. Let's see what council's pleasure may be. For the question, I'm not going to read this whole.
So the Leadership Pendleton Board, I mean, that's not an official board of the town. Was it?
Affiliate board.
Okay.
That's right.
So this program's been dormant. Are we looking at resurrecting it or?
Yeah, it's struggle.
They haven't been able to have a quorum for any of their meetings for
Yeah.
several years.
So they want to remove all their responsibilities
They
to,
want to dissolve their bylaws.
okay,
And just become still a program, but that's administered by a staff member.
We've administered with Lindsay here.
I would make a motion to approve.
Okay.
well, is that in her job description?
Yep.
Okay, well, if it's in her job description, sorry, child, you got it.
You gonna make a second?
Yeah, I sure will.
we
That was a second.
All right, so I guess we got a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. And this next one is, ties into the TIF, consideration of approving necessary items for the Village Hills Tax Increment Finance District. 1, fire department building timeline. 2, task order to design Calhoun Boulevard. 3, trail system for Village Hills. There's a lot of information here, which talks about all those things. Are there questions of that, or is there a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
I have some questions.
Okay, yes,
Before
ma'am.
you go ahead. I wasn't real clear about the trail. What exactly is included in that third task?
So, in talking with the designer I got here and y'all have all met that design group, we just think that there's opportunity when, you have a park like Veterans Park, it's a classic park, and then you have, what used to be referred to as linear parks. And with the amount of property that we own, which is a fairly sizable amount, it's actually the equivalent to Veterans Park. And so with those trails, you potentially have, if the topography works out, and you won't know all of that until you get in there and start doing, topo through the whole area for design. But you have easy ways to pick up Frisbee golf courses along trails that don't interfere with the trail, but interact with the trail. You have ways to pick up mountain bike paths that don't interfere with the trail, but interact. We had a lot of discussion with them about Swamp Rabbit because they're actively designing Swamp Rabbit. And if you've ever been to Swamp Rabbit with the amount of bikers on there, it's actually a pretty big hindrance. So do you have a way to put a bike path on one side and a walking path to keep them separated? And we think that you do have things in there. The focus would be to design the walking path, but while you're designing the walking path, to think about long-term how you put other recreational activities in there.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Some of those mountain bikers like all that topography.
That's exactly, that's their point is
I
that.
don't like the people though.
Well,
Right.
and that's the point about having, with 25 acres, you have some cheap recreational activities that benefit from that trail system if done correctly. And what those are, what's the most benefit to us, I don't know if any of us up here actually know right now other than a trail. So.
Also, it talks about the traffic study, and does that incorporate traffic and possibility of getting a crosswalk at the elementary school?
You talking about on Calhoun Boulevard?
Really on Queen Street where the,
Come across.
Yeah.
so
So,
talking about East Queen Street, and the sidewalk is going to extend to the elementary school.
Yep.
That was an issue that
Be
was
like
brought up
Pendleton.
at Meet the Mayor, is the kids not being able to get there. And if we're going to build more houses where kids might be walking, how can we make that as safe as possible?
so we sat down with GMC and we showed them the draft plan. And one of the things I think is key, and we just saw it. So what you're seeing, and it's nothing against Anderson District 4, it's just reality, is schools are moving out of cities. And so, the idea is to try to make it to where that it's advantageous for that school to stay there. And so part of GMC's task is it affordable? And we know at some point it will be affordable. So maybe you go ahead and do the design now of West Queen Street from the entrance of Calhoun all the way down to the school. And potentially, if there's enough money, all the way around the school, because all that's in the TIF district. So you upgrade all of those sidewalks and all that roads, because it would be really nice to protect the school, especially on Queen Street, with the amount of traffic that it's going to get coming in and coming out as the whole area around, with, for instance, raised intersections, crosswalks, things along that nature. And that's one of the reasons why the school won't participate. And the headwaters of Town Creek are on the school's property, and that it's very beautiful on what we own, but we also plan on the trail system to connect that sidewalk, to go over to walk that park, to have a parking lot over there with restrooms and stuff, maybe a playground, that you could add in the fields there, because that would be a cheap way to get a soccer field if we could correct the fencing in order to close it off during the day, open it up at night, close off the school during the night, and see all of those at some point would be eligible projects in TIF. So.
Can I ask a question? And this probably doesn't even have, probably not on anybody's radar, but are we looking at what we're going to need in fire and police for this? Because that's we already have a need to increase, and that's going to be a significant increase if you're talking about putting in various parks and things on that line.
Yeah. So DP3 has done the study for the fire station. They have also done the initial space study for public works. We have not commissioned them to do a space study yet for police.
Yeah, but what personnel?
Oh, personnel, I think for police, I can just say this for police. I think for the police side, it's way more easy for us to predict, because there's some standardized, this meet per 1,000 or this meet per calls, things on that nature. For Tommy's side with fire, if they were full time, we would be able to give you a much better number. But there are numbers you can use to predict how many volunteers you need at any given time. Some of that is recruitment and retention, and the way the fire service works, particularly in Anderson County, is the fire service is a special purpose government. It's not controlled by us, not controlled by the county, it's controlled by the legislative delegation who appoints those people to it. There's the firemen when they're, and Tommy can correct me, the firemen when they're on call are part of that special purpose, but when they're not, they really have another board over here that controls some of their stuff, that's the board that we generally work with. So it's all about recruitment and retention for Tommy's group. If they can get them in there spending time at the station, it's one of the things that he has talked with DP3 about is day rooms and facilities and so on and so forth, then they can keep them there. The other thing that we have talked to DP3 about is emergency medical quarters in there that are combined, so that you always have an ambulance station in Pendleton.
But where is the money for personnel coming from?
I think that's a budgetary question.
Okay,
for,
never mind.
for council.
Let's leave it there.
Yeah, so this, you can't use this money for that stuff. You can only
But will
use
it
this
generate anything to cover that?
at the end of the 25 years. It will. So at the end of the 25 years, that money all goes back into every. Yeah, once you're out of the bond, it all goes back in everybody's general fund. But until that 25 years ends, or until you complete all your capital projects and pay for them, it doesn't have to take full 25 years. That money, you should be using that to build stuff. Yeah, you should be using that to build stuff. So we have a lot of project stuff in here, and we can get those designs paid for. We can queue them up, and you can keep building them over 25 years. And then as you build these, because you're talking about $8 million for a station, and probably $10 million for a town hall, and it's a lot of money.
Okay.
All right, so back to my traffic and that issue. It talks about things that are help move cars, and I understand that's DOT, but are we talking about traffic calming as well? Because I mean, it is a pretty long straight stretch, and sometimes people get going pretty fast down that section of Queen Street. So is traffic calming in the prospect as well.
Yeah, we want them to look at, especially around the school, what it takes to slow that down. And that's why they need to do the traffic study.
We don't
That
need,
would involve raised intersections.
It could involve raised intersections, could actually involve center medians down Queen Street. It could involve, there's a whole new process now where they use visual interpretation by curving lines in the road, but not curving the road anymore. And it's been pretty successful in California with some, they've also had some pretty spectacular failures too. But,
That's not.
well, but I think they're getting it right at this point as a low cost way to control speed.
They've already done the trial and error.
They've already done trial and error. For it. But it could involve, I think you will actually see the road narrowed through there, which has been something we've been doing a lot. We did it on West Queen Street.
It's not without controversy.
It's not without controversy, because you narrow that road down but that
First
road
it makes people angry, then it makes them slow down.
then they hit a bump out and it really makes them slow down. So
Bust the tire.
yeah, so I think you'll see some of that. What it'll end up being, I don't know.
All right, and I guess my other question is how these two possibly could connect with the project with Tri-County Tech and the doghouse, so that there's continuity. Ideally, all of Queen Street has some level of continuity.
I think that's probably fairly easy because we have a pretty set standard on West Queen Street on what we're kind of looking at.
Mm-hmm.
As we bring that through, I think you'll see a lot of that same detail brought out around here. I think you'll actually probably see some additional ones because the speeds are a lot faster down there. But
some of those bike trails let out, and they can take up some room in the road.
Yeah, I think you're going to see the North Mechanic Street where you see the 12-foot path that we got planned on North Mechanic Street probably would be something successful to integrate down in there, because I don't know what it is. I just walked it today, but I think you've got about 50 or 60 feet of road bed there. That's a lot of road bed coming into town.
Most of the time, yeah, normally your right of way is going that big.
You may see a stacking lane at the school, but you may not too. They may actually use that traffic to control traffic. You see that done too. People ask, why do they put a medium in there at a school and then traffic backs up? Well, it's purely actually to control speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can't drive through it, you can't speed through it.
Yeah.
okay, so that kindergarten logic,
Yeah. All right. Well,
But Alliance, somebody knows that we want a crosswalk for the schools.
So Alliance is just
They're doing
park.
trails.
They're doing trails. GMC does know. They're informed. We are getting a new project manager, which is why we're wanting to try Alliance on the trails, not because we think anything wrong with GMC, but we are making a transition there. But GMC, Nick Wade, and you've met Nick. Nick kind of knows what we expect. You've seen his work on Winston Street. So he kind of is already versed in what we're looking for. So.
okay. Unless there are other questions, I think we had a motion going earlier.
you want me to redo it?
No, I think we got it.
Okay.
So we say we have a motion. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. All right, next we have consideration of first reading of an ordinance by Pendleton Town Council amending ordinance 1806, establishing traffic regulations for town of Pendleton, South Carolina. During the February 2024 strategic planning session with Pendleton Town Council and town stakeholders, several important goals were identified and established. One of those goals was the need to increase community engagement while preserving the essence of our community's unique character. And an area identified related to this goal was the need to increase the identification and utilization of available public parking areas within the town of Pendleton. Town staff has identified public parking areas and erected newly branded signage,
that will bolster the visual identity of these parking areas for better utilization by citizens and visitors to our town. The recommended amendment to our current ordinance by Strategic Direction Team 3 is required to facilitate parking enforcement in these parking areas. And recommended action is to approve first reading this ordinance, amending ordinance 1806 traffic regulations. Article 5, parking, standing, stopping, by adding section 15, metered parking, and amending section 16, penalties. So that's been revised too. As you'll remember, we kind of talked about all that. So reduce some of the fines and change some others, et cetera. So with that, is there a motion to pass this on first read?
Motion.
Okay, got a motion?
Second.
Okay, have a motion second, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. And next, we have consideration of second final reading of an ordinance of Town of Pendleton authorizing the lease of certain town-owned property consisting of a portion of a structure commonly known as the Rescue Squad Building located at 111 South Depot Street to Med Shore Ambulance Service LLC. This will be second final reading. I won't read all of it. Y'all are familiar, so.
Don't we need to include in the motion about the
The
attorneys?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how to word that, but we got comments today at 6 o'clock that, I guess if the attorney doesn't feel that it materially changes the lease, you can authorize the mayor to sign the lease, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. I
So-
can make a motion.
okay, all right.
Do you want me to restate that?
Or-
I think just with the,
No, I think.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to the effect of what Steve just said.
the amended motion, yes.
Okay, and we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion second, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous, thank you. Next, we have consideration of executive session pursuant to South Carolina Code of Laws, section 30-4-70, to discussion of appointments to town boards. So we'll be talking about consideration of board appointments. So having said that, do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go into executive session.
Second?
Second.
All right, have a motion second, all in favor? Motion carries unanimous, thank you. We will come back out of Needs to make a motion, or do we want to make that motion, Amber, or you just want?
I have it, if you want me to repeat it, so I make sure I have it, then why don't you just make it?
Why don't you do that?
Okay, Riley Morningstar is filling the vacancy caused by Lou Robinson. Boza Pam Patterson will fill Nancy Von Meyer's term. Kathy Edwards is going in a new term. DRB is Terry Gilstrap will fill the vacancy caused by Ann Smith. Presley will fill Maddie's vacancy, and hang on Carrie Fleming's.
Okay. So, someone's
I make a
making.
motion, that
To
motion.
that effect. Okay.
Second.
These people will be appointed.
And we have a second from Jeff.
That-
Motion
these
from
people
Ben,
will be
second from
appointed.
Zach.
Second, Jeff.
And we don't
And
tell.
all in favor? All right, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Okay.
Can we
I make a motion to adjourn.
Can we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, got it.
Second. Got a second? All in favor?
Yeah.
We adjourn.
Y'all gotta sign, don't leave.
So that's what we do. We
So-
call it.